This Shabbat is called Shabbat Chazon, the Shabbat of Vision. And we can really learn so much in our own lives today from this Shabbat. You see, there's two reasons why it's called the Shabbat of Vision, Shabbat Chazon. One reason is, brought down in books, is because the Haftarah begins Chazon. Chazon Yeshayahu ben Amos, the vision of Yeshayahu, the prophet, how he foresaw that the temple would be destroyed. So because we're now in a period of mourning for the destruction of the temple, culminating in Tisha Be'av, the 9th of Av, so we call this Shabbat Chazon. That is one reason. Second reason is, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak from Berditchev gives a parable. He says, imagine you have a child who the father loves very, very much. So he makes a beautiful suit. He buys a very expensive suit for the child, gives it to the child. He's so happy to give his child the suit. And the child, he doesn't know how to take care and appreciate the expensive suit. He goes to play in the sand, on the jungle gym, on the swings, and he messes up, he dirties, and he tears the suit. So the father says, okay, fine, let me buy him another one. He buys him another expensive suit. He gives it to the child. He's so happy to gift him with his gift. And the child, he doesn't know how to take care of the suit. So again, he messes it up, tears it. And then the father buys him a third suit. But this time round, the father does not give it to the child. The father stores it away in a closet, stores it away somewhere. And once a year, on a special occasion, the father takes out the suit and he says that when you learn how to appreciate this gift, I will give it to you. And once a year, when you mature enough, I'll give it to you. So too with us. God gave us the first Beit HaMikdash, the magnificent, beautiful temple built by Shlomo HaMelech, lasted for hundreds of years. But the Jewish people, we didn't know how to keep it, so it was destroyed. So God gave us a second time, the second Beit HaMikdash, beautiful gift, which we also didn't know how to keep. It lasted for 10 years longer than the first temple. We didn't know how to keep it, so God was destroyed. And every year since then, for close to 2,000 years, on the Shabbat of Tisha Be'av, Shabbat Chazon, the Shabbat of before Tisha Be'av, God shows us a vision of the third temple. And he says, when you learn how to behave, when you learn how to love each other, I will give you the third Beit HaMikdash. So on this Shabbat, if you open your eyes to the reality, you'll be able to see the third temple. You see, in our lives, we inhabit two realities. One reality is what we see with our physical eyes. You see a mountain, you see a table, you see a chair. And the other reality is what you don't see, but is the truth. So let's take a look at the rioting happening now in my home country in South Africa. There's a lot of rioting and looting. COVID-19 is rampant all over the place, but there's a lot of rioting and looting, and people are generally, they fear what's going on over there. So having lived in South Africa, having lived through all the riots, having lived there in the late 70s and the 80s and the early 90s, South Africa is one of the only countries in the world which has a direct blessing from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. The Lubavitcher Rebbe told my father as well. He said it's going to be good for the Jews until Mashiach comes and even afterwards. So South Africa has this unique blessing. So on the one hand, you see rioting, you see catastrophe, you see looting, and we feel so despondent, and what's going to be, and oh my God, it's terrible, it's terrible, it's terrible. But on the other hand, there's a deeper reality, a deeper vision, which we just need to open our eyes and realize that Yesh Balabait Lebirazu, there's a master to this universe. God has a plan. The Rebbe gave a blessing to the Jews of South Africa, so it's going to be fine there. But not just in South Africa, in America, in Israel, everywhere, where you have so much crime and you have so many reasons to be despondent. There are so many things to frustrate us today in the world, if it's politics, whatever it is, there's so many things. I'm so frustrated. There doesn't exist a person in this world who doesn't have problems. You're trying to search for your spouse and it's not working. You're living with a spouse and you're having marital problems, your business, your children, health. There's so many issues. That's one reality. But the other reality is deep, deep, deep inside there's a master plan. There's a God running the entire universe. He has some sort of plan which we don't know. But on this Shabbat Chazon, where God shows us the vision of the third temple, we just need to open our eyes and internalize and get that reality. And the same thing is with Tisha Be'av. Tisha Be'av is the saddest day in the Jewish calendar. It's a fast day. We fast. We mourn for the destruction of the temple. But on the other hand, Tisha B'av is actually a holiday. We don't say Tachnun. What does that mean? You see, when the temple was being destroyed, when the Beit HaMikdash was being destroyed, there was a Jew, says the Talmud, right outside Jerusalem. He was talking to an Arab. And the Arab's cow made a sound, moo, moo sound. So the Jew asked the Arab, what is that cow saying? The Arab understood cow language. And the Arab, says the Talmud, said to the Jew, the cow is saying that right now, the temple of the Jews has been destroyed. They didn't have Facebook or WhatsApp or Instagram, so they have no way of knowing the temple was being destroyed. Only through the cow, the Jew and the Arab knew the temple was destroyed. And the cow right away made another sound, moo. So the Jew asked the Arab, what's the cow saying now? And the Arab said, now the cow said that the Mashiach of the Jews has been born. You see, on the one hand, Tisha B'av is destruction of the temple. It's a terrible, terrible time. On the other hand, Mashiach was born out of that rubble. It says in the Talmud, when the Romans came to destroy the temple, the Kruvim were the holiest part. In the Holy of Holies, there was a male and female-like figure of angels or babies. And whenever the Jews did what God wanted, they fulfilled mitzvot, God was happy with them, these two golden images faced each other. And whenever they sinned, these male and female-like figure, which represented the relationship of God and the Jews, turned away from each other. Says the Talmud, at the time of the destruction of the temple, these two kruvim, male and female-like figures, were hugging one another. And you would think that God was fuming at the Jews. He was so angry at them. That's why the temple was being destroyed. It says the Talmud, they were hugging one another. Because at the time of the deepest crisis, which banished us from our land and exiled us till today, at that same time, God displayed the deepest affection and love for us. Because there's one reality which we see with our physical eyes, which is the destruction of the temple, which is terrible, terrible, terrible times. But on the other hand, a hug, a deeper connection with God was forged at that moment. That is the moment Mashiach was born. That is the moment that God started to rebuild the third temple. It happens to be that God takes him a long time to rebuild the temple, close to 2,000 years, right? An architect, somebody's building a skyscraper, may take a year, 2 years, 3 years. God's taking him a long time to rebuild. But that is the reality of Tisha B'av. On the one hand, we mourn. On the one hand, it's sad and it's a terrible time. But on the other hand, the deeper reality is that this is the time of rebuilding. This is the time when Mashiach was born. This is the time when God is hugging us in the deepest, deepest way. And that's why we don't say Tachnun on Tisha B'av. It's a great holiday. Let me just end off. We say in our prayers every single day, Et tzemach David avdecha, we say, V'lishuascha kivinu kol hayom. We say, God Almighty, please bring Mashiach. By the way, we pray for Mashiach and redemption multiple times a day. But we say to God, why should we bring Mashiach? Because V'lishuascha kivinu kol hayom. Imagine you go to someone, you say, I need a loan from the bank. Why? Because I need it. Because I'm asking so much for it. Because I ask you every day for a loan in the bank. You know, the bank manager will say, listen, we're not a chesed organization. We don't give out free loans. You want money? Go work. What do we tell God? We want Mashiach to come. Why? Because we're asking for it. We need it. How does that make sense? And the answer is, we tell God, you know why you should bring us Mashiach? You know why you should rebuild the temple? You know why you should end all the suffering and persecution and pogroms and bring us all into Israel? Because we're asking and demanding every single day. The fact that we're asking, the fact that we're demanding, the fact that we want it is enough of a merit that you should actually bring it and fulfill our wish. It's like Napoleon came once to the temple. He came once to Jerusalem, and he sees on Tisha B'av people mourning and crying for the destruction of the temple. So he asked somebody, what are the Jews crying over? So they said, it's been hundreds of years since the temple has been destroyed, but they're crying over the destruction. Napoleon made a famous statement, and he said, if there are Jews that can mourn and cry for the destruction of the temple hundreds of years after it was destroyed, they will surely see its rebuilding. You see, we tell God the fact that we're demanding and asking and begging you every day for hundreds, thousands of years is enough of a merit that you should actually bring it and fulfill it. It says that one time on Tisha Be'av, Reb Shlomo Mikarlin was visiting the Alter Rebbe, the Baal HaTanya. And, on Tisha Be'av, they were sitting on the floor crying, reading the Eicha Yashva Vadad Ha'ira Bat Yam. And there was one guy, his name, a Chassid, a student of the Alter Rebbe, his name was Reb Shmuel Munkus. And, Chabad, we're not strict on crying strictly, So he took some berelach, like these little wooden pebbles, and he threw it around the synagogue, and one of them landed on Reb Shlomo Mikarlin. So Reb Shlomo Mikarlin remarked to the Alter Rebbe, he says, because of people like that, the temple was destroyed. The Alter Rebbe never said anything. But the next day, the Alter Rebbe and Reb Shlomo Mikarlin were going for a walk in the forest. And while they were there, they see somebody crying in the forest. Crying and crying from the depths of his heart. A davening like that. Reb Shlomo Mikarlin, he was so moved. And he said, because of people like that, the temple will be rebuilt. And the Alter Rebbe told him, it's the same person who threw the berelach last night and was jesting and was joking. It's the same person crying. You see, on the one hand, we cry and we mourn, and it's a terrible, terrible time. But on the other hand, we know that Tisha B'av is a wonderful time because it's when Mashiach was born. May we all merit to see and witness the fulfillment of the coming of the redemption, the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu right now, and may it be God's will that we won't even need to fast this coming Tisha B'av, because we will all be in Jerusalem, Ir HaKodesh.